Okay, I'm back with the napping, and when I first started looking at napping videos, I hated it because I'd be zipping through the video, and there would just be this picture of tools, and they would talk and talk and talk and talk. I'm going to try not to do that, but there are things you do have to know, and I'm going to share with you my lessons learning to nap. I showed you the points that I made initially. This is the first tool that I made for napping. It is just a dowel with a piece of ground wire glued into the end of it. You see it's kind of blunt, but that's the first thing I used. I put a little smashed flat piece of smaller copper wire in this end to use for doing notches. So that's the first thing I used up until I went to that first nap in. Okay, when I went to the nap in, well, I made another tool before I went to the nap in, but I didn't really use it much because I didn't like it. I made one with a piece of, I had some brass rod. So I made this long one that they call an ishy stick. And I put this piece of brass rod in the end of it and ground that to a point, and it doesn't work worth a darn. The brass is just too hard. It slips off the stone. Never got this to work at all, but I save it as a reminder of what not to do. I tried because some people, especially in their ishy sticks, use steel. Now this is a piece of cut nail that I put in there. It also seems kind of slippery to me. And I put a smaller nail that's round at the end and this end. I didn't have much luck with this. Now, Billy Berger uses almost all Aboriginal tools, but he does like to use a horseshoe nail for notching, and I'm going to try that. I've got plenty of horseshoe nails around, so I'm going to try that, but I didn't like using the steel. Some people swear by it. They use it all the time. Okay, when I went to the nap-in to replace my wonderful little tool, when I went to the North Georgia nap-in in Cartersville, I got this one. It's got a Delrin handle, it's got a copper nail in the end of it, and it's got a, don't know if you can see it, but it's got a little set screw in the side so you can move this in and out and replace it. Really nice. Looks like I paid $10 for that, okay? And was real excited to get it. At that same nap-in, I went ahead and decided to buy this. This is an ishy stick with copper in the end. It also has a set screw so you can take this out, slide it in. Some people will slide it out further and thin it out for notching, then slide it back in to be short and stubby for heavy work. But the cool thing about this one is it comes apart. And I think I paid, you know how fussy I am about money, but I think I paid $25 for this and wasn't sure about it at the time. I have thanked my lucky stars every time that I decided not to be a Scrooge and went ahead and got this. This is the one I use all the time now. And I can take it apart and put it in the bag that I carry my tools in when I go somewhere. Especially if I go camping or I go to a nap-in. It comes apart, it goes in my bag, it's great. Now, other tools, now those are used for pressure flaking. Other tools that are used for pressure flaking are what they call Aboriginal tools or primitive tools, like this deer antler tine. Now, Billy Berger does amazing work with this. He does, his little points are like jewels. Beautiful, because he uses them for hunting, so he doesn't need great big, atlatl points or spears to kill a mammoth with. He's going after deer and elk and things like that, or turkey. And so he uses this to make those beautiful small points. He can make the bigger ones, but that's what he does most of the time. This one I've ground at the end into a little flat thing to work with notching. And now for me, it is I'm not really quite strong enough. I want to learn to use the Aboriginal tools. They've got a longer learning curve. Ultimately, one is as good as the other, whether you use the modern copper or the Aboriginal tools. But I'm just stubborn enough to want to know how to do it. So, but since my hands aren't as strong, and I know they would get stronger, but eventually your joints give way. So I decided I would make myself an ishii stick for an antler tine. Now what I did was, I thought about it for a while. I wasn't sure what to do, and I loosened this by just hitting it like that. Okay, you see how it slid out? I took my dowel and I split it with the saw. Okay, then I put my PVC pipe back around it and drilled down into it to kind of round it out in the middle. Then, after I had done that, I took some of these antler tines and I just took them to my belt sander and sanded the sides off more or less square. It fits diagonal wise in here. Push it went in a little bit too far. I take it, I slide this stick up. I find an edge here, and there's one right here, a square edge underneath the edge of my bench. Push against this edge to lock it in. Now I have a longer tool that gives me more leverage to use this for pressure flaking. And we're going to talk about that. Like I said, I am not a napper. I am a student, okay? So you're welcome to learn along with me. Blame Diane. She wanted to see this stuff. It's all her fault. Okay. Now the other thing that you have to do when you're napping is percussion. And I meant to go out the car because I've got a nice piece of solid copper about this long that is really an amazing bopper, amazing percussion tool. These I made myself. I went to the Lowe's. I got a 1 inch, a 3/4 inch, and a 1/2 inch copper cap. I then took them and one way and another wailed away on the inside of them until I domed the tops. In some cases I was able to use some of my jewelry, my round-ended jewelry tools to, I've got a little doming block, some of my doming tools to do it, and that helped a lot. Then I took them and I filled them most of the way up with lead, then put them on these dowel rods, and I even drilled a few holes. I epoxied them, but I also drilled a few holes and ran some nails in, just because they're not that deep in here. Most of it's lead. I've used this some, not much. I use this one pretty often, but I use this one all the time, and you can see how deformed it is. They won't last forever. They will wear out. But until they do, they're great. I also got a piece of plain copper. You know, it's one of those riser pipes, and comes to a narrower end, and used in plumbing. Not exactly sure what it's used for, but I know that it's for helping regulate pressure in the system. Not sure how. And I took this and I filled it up about to, let me see, right about to here with lead. Okay, just so I'd have something a little heavier. It also really deforms. As a matter of fact, the whole thing's a little bent. But again, it gives me a heavier bopper, especially when I'm out walking the creek beds and looking for rocks and I want to bash them. I've just gotten where I take my rock hammer. It works as well as anything. So those are boppers. And another thing that you're going to need as a tool, for me, is something to protect your hand. For me, it's this glove. Now, when I first started napping, before I had any instructions except for some on YouTube, I would just put this little leather pad in my hand and I'd work away at it. Okay, this was before I even started doing anything in percussion because I was using slabs. And I missed a couple of times and drove flakes right into the ball of my thumb. And let me tell you, you go, oh, ow, that went in a 1/4 inch. And so I decided I needed gloves. Well, these are just these rubber palmed gloves. It will go through that like that, no problem. So I made this leather shield, and that works really well. This is what I always wear when I'm napping. Every now and then I'll think, nah, I'm just going to nap for a minute. Yeah, I get cut. It's just the way it is. So that's what I use. Okay. There's another thing that I saw at the Nap In, and I met the fellow yesterday who says he invented this idea. And that is, if you're going to go barehanded, you can take this piece of leather and use it to take care of your hand. It's great. Okay, so let's talk briefly about percussion. Really briefly, because I am not good at it. And I'll show you something. You've been listening to me blather on about tools. So I've got this wonderful piece of buffalo leather that I got yesterday at the Nap In. Let me see if I can get you down here where you can see this. I may lower the camera just a bit. Yeah, okay, I think you're going to be able to see here. I don't know if it's a good angle or not, but we'll know soon. Now, if you're doing percussion, basically you're trying to get something in the shape you need it in order to make an arrowhead and do percussion flaking. I mean pressure flaking. So, if I were to take a stone like this, and this is not a really great shaped stone. It's a piece of Buffalo River. It's got a real deep dip here. I don't know if I'll really get much out of this stone to start with. Let me get a different one. Okay. And let me tell you, I'm a beginner. I don't really know much about any of this. But, uh-oh, can't use that one. That's a business card. Well, let's say this one. This is a piece of hornstone. And remember, don't do as I do. I'm experimenting every single day with this, okay? But I'm going to grab one of my boppers. And I just crushed an edge. Don't do that, okay? Bad dog. Let me see. I'm going to grab one of my pieces of glass here. Okay, and this is just junky stuff. So, I mean, it's still junky stuff. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you about, that's abraders. Now, another aboriginal tool, instead of using the boppers, is to use stone. And they're good for more than one thing. You can abrade your edges with them. And understand, I'm not even trying to make a shape here. I'm just trying to show you how some of the tools work, okay? And be careful. You're working in little glass slivers all the time. But if you can kind of support with your finger up underneath where you're going to hit, it'll tend to make a flake run. Okay? Let's see. I may want to bring this in just a hair. Let me see. Tighten it up just some. Okay. Take my bopper, and I'm going to try to hit it. It needs to be abraded some more. Where's my stone? Another thing you can abrade with, a piece of broken grindstone. Remember, I'm not a napper. This is for you, Diane. See? That ran a flake across. Now, this is slag glass, so it's got lots of flaws in it, and I may or may not be able to make something out of it. But it did run a flake across. Let's try this one. Another piece of slag glass. And, alright, there's a kind of a ridge there. Ridges are kind of what you want to go along when you're thinning. That's going to be where the flake is going to want to run. So I do some brushing flakes this way. This makes the edge stronger. And you guys that are real nappers, please leave me comments. I'll take any advice I can get. Alright, now I'm also going to kind of support that. And you want to hit kind of just barely touch the tip. I usually hit too deep. You kind of almost want to miss, you know, and kind of work your way up to it as you go. But you barely want to hit it, and you want to hit it just barely towards the direction you want it to go. You know, kind of down and just slightly in, I believe is correct. Looky. See? That went all the way along that ridge. And it's made two more ridges that you can work from. That one's kind of crushed, but that one would go. Okay? So that's a little bit about percussion. I am not going to go too far with it because I don't know how to do it yet. I'm learning every day. I ruin some rock or I ruin some glass just to learn technique like getting that flake to run. Now, our Aboriginal ancestors, you can't make an arrowhead out of that, alright? But, let me get you in view here. You can't make an arrowhead out of that. But by golly, it is sharp as a razor. And you can use that for skinning. You can use it for cutting up your food. You can use it for a lot of things. Okay? It is a tool still. Okay? It's a blade. So, it's a useful thing. Got another one back here. This is a piece I struck off some harvester. And I guarantee you can't make a blade out of this. Well, you might make a tiny little point. But it is so sharp. And could you skin a buffalo with it? Why, yes, you could. You know, you're not going to cut through the joints, obviously, but you can definitely cut up the meat. So, everything was a tool. Alright, now, that's about all I'm going to do with percussion because I really, as I said, I don't know enough about it yet. But as I learn, I'll let you see what I have discovered. And I got a piece over here. This is a puzzle piece. One of the guys gave it to me. It's all messed up right here. It was almost a biface. It's nice and flat on this side. But oh my goodness, it's boogered up right here. And you can keep hitting over here all you want. You are never going to get that flat. So what I've got to do is figure out how to fix this edge so that I can drive a flake across somehow. And again, remember, I'm a beginner. I'm baffled with this. But it's a puzzle piece for me. I'm going to think about it a long time, then I'll see if I can fix it. And maybe even make an arrowhead out of it. Now we're going to go to, I wanted to show you something beautiful. Yep, that's what you get for watching somebody who's so ADHD. Squirrel. This, my friends, this gorgeous stone is Arkansas stone. It's novaculite. And I am so excited about having this beautiful piece of novaculite and I've got about 5 of them. Can't wait to learn enough to be able to take a spall like this and make a point out of it. Now, when I first started, I came home after using that piece of leather and driving a lot of flakes into my hand. And and of course I'm too stubborn to stop. And I took an old piece of boot heel and I made this. Now, I discovered that you wanted a, get you in range here, the viewfinder's upside down to me. I discovered that you wanted to have this groove in it because that lets the flake run. So I'd put this in my hand and I would nap. I'd press off a flake so it could run. Well, they jumped all over me at my first nap and said, "You idiot! You're going to drive flakes into your hand." So I bought 2, honest to goodness, pads. at my first nap in. And this is one of them. This is just a flexible rubber pad. It's pretty hard, but still, you would use it. Now, it's a little bit big for my hand, and I will eventually trim this one down. And I also got this one. This one has cedar on the back of it to stiffen it. It's got the groove down the middle. And what I did with it was I sawed part of it off. And that way it fits my hand a good bit better. I can reach across it. Because what you're going to want to do is hold your piece that you're working here. And I've got this at just about the wrong angle. Yeah, I'm going to have to lower that a little bit. It's as low as it'll go. I'll fix it. So anyway, you're going to want to hold your piece here on it like that. Okay. Or this piece here like that. Now, I finally decided, since they chewed me out about the other, to put something underneath it. This one you can see I've used a lot. See, it's all chewed up from napping. Another piece of boot heel, and I fixed a piece of rubber from a rubber boot to the back of it. So I really feel pretty well protected with this one, and I've used it a lot. But my last one that I made, I like the best. And since you do have what they call a bulb of percussion, it's kind of nice if your pad opens up at the back so that it starts narrow and spreads out, and it doesn't stop it. This one also, you can see I have used quite a bit, and it's a good size for my hand. It's probably the one I'm going to use today. So, I've got to readjust the camera. I'll be back in, I don't know, I guess it's going to be part 3. Be right back. We'll actually break some more rock. Thank you.